It's Sunday morning, and every decent man and woman is listening to Test Miles with Nick Miles on FM News 101 KXL. Buckle in.
Sunday morning, time to talk cars for the next 60 minutes on your weekly automotive radio experience. I'm Nick Miles, and you're listening to America's Automotive Radio Show. Test Miles, locally created, nationally celebrated. This morning's team includes misfits, rapscallions, and ne'er-do-wells. A packed show this morning. We're going to be talking about the vehicles that we have been driving here at Team Test Miles. Also coming up, we are going to do some, look at some all-wheel drive vehicles. I've decided I need an all-wheel drive sedan for the winter, and I'm leaning towards the Chrysler 300C. So we're going to beat up one of the Chrysler engineers and find out why I should be buying one of those. There is a new motorsports park in the Northwest. It is up in Washington. We're going to find out all about that, what sort of turns it has, how it got built, how you can use it, how you can learn from it. And Jeff Zershmi is going to be here to talk about the cars of Cuba. The country has opened up to the West, but the citizens and the cars are frozen in time. Jeff's going to tell us. Jeff's from the Oregonian, by the way, if you don't remember that. Jeff's going to tell us about his trip to Cuba to check them out, and we'll hear more about that later on in the show. So what have we been driving this week? Well, the team took some vehicles from the Test Miles garage. I actually had the Hyundai Tucson. My mom owns a Tucson from a bunch of years ago, and she's very happy with it, but she got a two-wheel drive, and they live up on Mount Scott. So they probably should have a four-wheel drive, since when it snows at Mount Scott. It's interesting, if you're on the top of Mount Scott, which is sort of between, it's sort of Happy Valley, the bottom left-hand corner of Happy Valley, or the right-hand corner of Happy Valley. If you live up there, you can drive down off of the hill and you can see the demarcation line where the temperature changes. So they can have a foot of snow and it can be sunny down in the valley, or they can have rain and we don't have rain.
It's called Happy Valley.
Yes.
And Mount Scott.
Yes.
So the mountain will be higher.
I wonder if the valleys actually... I do know that there's some interesting things about Happy Valley. We'll throw this in. It's not car-related, but Happy Valley was started in 1965, and there are more psychiatrists in Happy Valley than any other city in the United States.
Prescription drugs, thus Happy Valley.
Better living through chemistry. The Tucson is a 5-door crossover, peppy and fuel-efficient turbocharged engine, a 1.6, adult-friendly back seat, and advanced safety systems, infotainment system, and refined ride. Much nicer than they've had this car in the past. I do feel one thing about the engine, a little lackluster. Even though it has a turbo, the 1.6, I need something bigger than that. Certain trim levels are very desirable over the others, limited, and also 2.4-litre four-cylinder. I had the 1.6-litre turbo. Up to 175 horsepower, 6-speed automatic, 7-speed dual clutch. Front wheel or all-wheel drive, 29 miles a gallon is the combined, 2633. I think they put these smaller engines in it because of the fuel economy. The 29 miles a gallon combined and 33 top is pretty amazing for a small SUV. What else can I tell you about it? It's competition: Ford Escape, Honda CR-V, RAV4. The Jeep was probably going to be the Renegade. No, the
Cherokee.
The Cherokee is the competition. Equinox, Terrain, Rogue, Forester, Outlander, Sport are the competitions. Comes in 4 different trim levels, $23,595. Not a bad starting price. Although I'm starting to learn now, nobody ever buys a starting price car. I actually got in one the other day and was like, "Where's the floor?" It's kind of
Fred Flintstone style.
It was one of those. I'm just kidding, by the way, if you think I'm serious. Nissan Maxima was a car. I'll tell you, I went on the ride and drive of this car. Did not get a full appreciation of the Maxima. Boy, do I have appreciation now. Spent a week in this vehicle. I would buy this car. The only thing I don't like about it, the one I'm driving, the trim level is $40,000. But apart from that, it's in the inside, this sort of diamond stitching.
Great seats,
padding,
too.
Yeah. The NASA zero-gravity seats. The door trim has this sort of diamond flexing. I mean, it's really beautiful. Sporty drive, very quiet and upscale interior. Plenty of features for the money. Back seat is a little bit tight. Consider mid-car size and lots of different trim levels. 3.5-litre V6, 300 horsepower. CVT, which, by the way, Nissan have got the CVT down. Front-wheel drive, 30 miles a gallon is the best we can get out of this. What does it go up against? It goes up against the Malibu, the Impala, the Taurus, the Charger, the Avalon, the Azera. Most of the big, it doesn't feel as big as those, though. It feels maybe mid-size sedan. A bunch of trim levels, $33,235 for that car. Sean, what have you been driving?
Like you, I was driving another entry-level car. I was driving the Honda Accord Sport, and I actually love this car, and the only problem with it is driving the other Accords before driving this one, because you get so spoiled with all the technology that the other cars offer and the comfortability that they have, that this one's just, it's hard knowing that stuff's out there and you have to get into this one. Right. But it's a fantastic vehicle for starting price $24,100. It's a great little car. Fuel economy is 27.37 on the highway. Has a 2.4 liter 4-cylinder VTEC engine. And like I said, the only bad about this car is knowing that the Accords out there are better. And I just want, like, the Honda Lane Watch and some of the other systems that they offer that this one doesn't.
It's the trouble, we get spoiled with these really nice cars. You get a stripped down version, you're like, who would buy this? I mean, even a car without navigation, I'm like, why would you? But most people don't want navigation because they can use it off their cell phone.
Exactly. And I mean, and that's kind of the biggest problem. But if you didn't drive that and you got into this car, you would love it. Competitors are a Chevy Malibu, Toyota Camry, Nissan Altima. And I actually enjoyed just driving this vehicle for a week. It was relaxing. It did its purpose. It was a great drive, fun to drive. It's not, a screamer around corners or anything, but you could still have fun with the car, and it's very comfortable to get in and out of. And for a great price, $25,000, I'd take it.
All right, cool.
Especially considering what else can you get for $25,000 out there anymore.
You're absolutely right, Brad.
Well, I'll tell you what you can get for $25,000.
A bicycle.
And this is a perfect dichotomy here. So you can get that base model Accord, bigger car, or you can get the Kia Forte Coupe.
Which I do love, by the way.
Phenomenal car, beautiful, redesigned in 2014, but the fully loaded coupe with a K, by the way, is $26,000. But it has all the buzzers and bells and all those things you want. And it comes in 3 trim levels. There is the sedan, the 4-door hatchback, what they call the Forte 5. And then this coupe, beautiful, redesigned, not a whole lot of changes for this year. The downside to this vehicle, and you talked about your Tucson getting 29 MPG.
29 combined, yeah. 33.
Yeah, this gets 28.
Right.
So that's kind of, this smaller entry-level kind of coupe and sedan should probably get a little better mileage. But that's about the only downsides that I can get for this vehicle.
A little bit tough.
So the EX starts at about 18.9, and then you work your way up to the SX. So this fully loaded is 26.
Right.
But Kia does a really good job, though, on those entry-level cars. They have a lot of things that are standard on the vehicles.
I like the idea you can go to a Kia dealership and you don't have 300 boxes to check before you get the car you want. It's usually just 2 or 3 options, and you can get the car you want. So they don't option them out and then increase the price by $10,000.
Absolutely. Tough competition in this segment, obviously, with the Corolla, the Civic, the Impreza, the Mazda 3.
Yeah. All
real tough competitions. None of them really do everything perfectly, so you pick and choose what you like. If you want styling and a real comfortable interior for a coupe, I fit in very well in that vehicle. So I was really impressed.
I do like it. It's going to be built in Mexico, by the way, next year. They're building a factory right there, and they're saying, the word on the street is they deny this, but I got the inside information. They're going to have an STI competitor out of that car. So they're going up against
I could see that.
Yeah, it's the perfect car to do it, and I think they green-lighted it. So they denied it, but I got the inside scoop. They didn't want me to know because I was going to tell you a lot, and then there'd be trouble.
But they said don't tell anybody.
No, too late. You're listening to Test Miles on FM News 101 KXL. Coming up, we're going to talk about all-wheel drive systems. You really need an all-wheel drive system if you live in Portland. We'll find out that, and we're also going to find out about this new racetrack in Washington. And, of course, the cars of Cuba. Jeff Searchman going to be here from the Oregonian telling us about what's happening in Cuba. Are these cars as special as we thought? Are they worth a lot of money? Are they held in time? Are they frozen? It's Test Miles, FM News 101 KXL. I'm Nick Miles.
Test Miles, Like NASCAR, but with one right turn. TestMiles.com.
Welcome back to Test Miles FM News 101 KXL, your automotive radio show live from our studios in downtown Portland. If you want to see some of our car segments that we do on TV, just watch Coin News 6 on Friday and Saturday. I don't think we've talked about this yet, but I joined Coin. I'm now one of those pretty faces on Coin. I'm not allowed to stand next to Ken Body though. There's like a 3 foot. You're not allowed to be next to him. They say, you've got to give Ken Body some space.
You get tased if you get too close. You get tased
if he gets close to
So
Ken
when
Body.
somebody said you had the face for radio, they were wrong.
They made an exception over at Coin.
I think that's just us.
Friday and Saturday, Coin TV, watch the morning news, and you can see my car reports.
Outstanding. Well, here's our first fun fact of the day. The 1903 Spiker was the very first sports car to offer all-wheel drive.
And that's what we're talking about. Actually, I have a problem. I have somewhat of an addiction. I love cars. I own the Project Discovery. We had that new Project Discovery last year. Our new project vehicle is coming this fall called Project Tyrant. In the last 2 years, I've had a Ram 1500 Eco Diesel. Loved it. A Dodge Durango Citadel. Loved it. And now I'm looking for an all-wheel drive car for the winter. Now, I like the Chrysler 300C, full-bodied, robust, full of character. And now it comes in all-wheel drive. But is an all-wheel drive system what I want? And joining us on the phone from Chrysler is Mike Kirk from I guess, Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, we should say, Mike. Mike, welcome to the show. Chrysler have called their all-wheel drive system in the 300 the best in class. Why is that?
Well, good morning. The reason it's best in class and the reason it's pretty innovative is because it gives you all the all-wheel drive features. First of all, with a rear-wheel drive bias car. So if you like to drive cars and you like the way rear-wheel drive cars handle, even when the vehicle's in all-wheel drive, it's going to give you that kind of feel. But the best part about it is when you don't need it in nice weather and warm temperatures, then it disconnects and gets you better fuel economy.
And now, the brains of the operation are the active transfer case, the front axle disconnecting, as you mentioned it, which helps maximize that traction when needed. How does that work? How does it know when to disconnect and when you only need rear-wheel drive?
Well, it's got a lot of technology on the car, so it's always monitoring the temperature outside. It knows whether it's raining outside. It actually watches the wipers. It watches any slip that the tires have and any kind of road conditions. It also monitors the way the customer's driving. So even in dry pavement, if you're driving very aggressively, it's going to turn on the all-wheel drive and give you power in all four wheels.
That's perfect, of course, for wet, slippery conditions. Do you guys test these vehicles quite radically? I know that you have a test track in the Upper Peninsula where you do some snow testing, but what sort of testing do you put them through to check out that they will be ready for every kind of road condition?
Yeah, we tested all over the country and actually all over the world, and that's the most fun part of my job. I get to drive the cars in all the different kinds of conditions. Up in northern Michigan, they get well over 100 inches of snow a year, so we got plenty of snow to drive these cars in.
I did notice something when I was in Italy. I was there for the launch, the unveiling of the new Giulia, the Alfa Romeo Giulia. And all the executives were ferried in and out of the Alfa Romeo headquarters in these Lancia vehicles, which look suspiciously like the Chrysler 300, I might add.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. They sell that same or similar vehicle under the Lancia nameplate over there.
How changed is it for Europe? Do they like less things? Do they want the navigation? I mean, how stripped down? How different?
Oh, they want everything on the vehicle you can get. Yes,
now,
they're very, very high-end cars there. So they take the 300C and they have all of the international navigation and all those kind of things.
Do they have the all-wheel drive in Europe?
Yes, the all-wheel drive is available in Europe as well. Although I'm not sure the all-wheel drive is available with the V6 and not with the V8, and so I'm not exactly sure what the powertrains were
now that's
in those vehicles.
That's an interesting question there, Mike, because is the V8 available in all-wheel drive here in the 300?
No, for this year we dropped the V8 all-wheel drive. We sell most of our vehicles as 6-cylinders, and the customers want the 6-cylinder are pretty much the customers that want the all-wheel drive. We have about 30% penetration of all-wheel drive on this 300.
Okay, now how does this sort of all-wheel drive system enhance the driving experience and keep you in control on ice and snow and roads? Does it allow you to really send the power to the wheels that need it?
Yes, exactly. And as I said, it still stays a little rear biased, but as you drive the car and in snow and ice, what you'll find is it has great traction. It's one of the best vehicles that we test. Just based on the fact that it anticipates any issues with traction and then sends the power to the right wheels. It manages the torque on all four wheels to make sure that you're getting the type of performance you want. We take it out on literally sheets of clear ice up in the northern Michigan, and you can drive away very, very easily just on absolutely glare ice. And it stays stable. It stays pointed in the right direction.
Now, I wanted to ask you an interesting question here. By the way, I'm going to buy one of these. I'm pretty sure I'm going to buy one of these. So I will let you know. One of the things I've noticed in some of those systems that go from two-wheel to all-wheel drive, that you can feel the engagement. You can feel the clunking when it changes from one to the other. Can you feel, is it seamless going from all-wheel drive to two-wheel drive, or can you feel the change?
Yeah, it's seamless and it's preemptive, meaning that long before about 30, well, somewhere around 37, 38 degrees Fahrenheit, when the temperature drops, it's going to automatically engage the all-wheel drive, and then it'll stay engaged even if you park the car in a warm garage. It remembers the state of the outside, and so it's not going to turn off and engage and disengage. Now, that doesn't mean it's sending torque all the time to the front wheels, but the disconnect mechanism is separate, and we always make sure that if the customer wants all-wheel drive in inclement weather, it has it. So, if it senses any, if the wipers come on for more than 3 or 4 wipes, then it's going to engage. And under those conditions, it's totally seamless. The customer doesn't know.
I love that. Now, let me ask you this question. All-wheel drive system's pretty heavy, pretty clunky, and use more fuel. How badly is the fuel economy affected with this?
Well, the fuel economy of the 300 all-wheel drive is about 1 mile per gallon city and 3 mile per gallon highway, lower than the rear-wheel drive version. But it's pretty much best in class from the perspective of the overall all-wheel drive car and its fuel economy numbers. In reality, we see very little difference in the performance or the fuel economy of the car between it and a rear-wheel drive, because it completely disconnects during the summer months and any time that you don't need it.
Now, I also noticed that, all,'obviously you guys are part of the same group that Jeep is in. Did you learn a lot from what Jeep have done with their all-wheel drive systems?
Yeah, all-wheel drive all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, which is the big Jeep thing, is really important, obviously, for the Jeep customer. And we've taken this system that was developed on the 300C and actually used it to pattern the new systems that are on the Jeep Cherokee and then the Jeep Renegade. They also now have disconnectable all-wheel drive systems similar to the 300 that was developed on the 300.
Now, I have to tell you that I'm pretty excited about this, but there isn't really any competition for this car, is there? Because first of all, American-built rear-wheel drive, I think, is it the Charger and the Challenger? That's the Charger, four-door, and the 300. That's it, isn't it? Just the two cars?
We love the place where we have this car. There are some Europeans, and then even obviously the Genesis products that are rear-wheel drive. And of course, if you love driving cars, you love a car that has rear-wheel drive. And this is basically the best of both worlds. So it's not a clunky front-wheel drive car. It's got a lot of character. It's so much fun to drive in the summertime and any time when the pavement's dry. And then instead of having to suffer with a rear-wheel drive in inclement weather, this car has all the right technology on it. It'd be really fun to drive at any weather.
Perfect. Mike Kirk from Chrysler Organization, Fiat Chrysler Automobiles. Thank you, sir, for being on the show. You got my money. Just take my money and send me my car. You're listening to Test Miles on FM News 101 KXL. Coming up next, we'll find out about a new motorsports park in Washington.
throw it in neutral and coast in with testmiles.com.
It's a Sunday morning, and this is America's Car Radio Show. We'd like to thank you for being part of the Car Nation. For more fun facts about cars, just go to our Facebook page, Test Miles ENT.
Here's a fun fact to impress your friends. Unlike standard car tires, racing tires used in top motorsports are usually filled with nitrogen instead of compressed air.
What do you mean? That's dangerous, right? Yeah, nitrogen. Now, a lot of car places are doing nitrogen, including Les Schwab. I noticed they're putting nitrogen in your... I think Les Schwab are doing it because apparently it holds the air much better. Do you have a need for speed? Do you like to go fast? I know I do, and we have more opportunities to do that now with a new motorsports park in Shelton, Washington. Rusty Gill, along with Sparky from Elite Camera Car, have dropped into the studio, the Test Mile studio, to tell us more about the park. Good morning, gentlemen. So what's the story here? You guys, you had a need for speed and you built your own park, is that it?
I wouldn't really call it just building your own park, but the opportunity came up and through some planning and design in early 2011, 2012, and we were afforded the opportunity to be able to get out on a very unique piece of property up in Shelton and construct the Ridge Motorsports Park, and it's a phenomenal 2.47 mile road race course and an accompanying exact replica karting circuit.
How did you design it? Did you just start driving courses around the country and then decide, hey, this looks good for me?
Well, actually, my partner Joe Mankey, he's been racing for years and years and years, and he kind of started talking around. It was actually a piece of property that he owned, and got to looking at it and thought, this could be a really neat layout. And he was able to get put in connection with Steve Crawford. And Steve Crawford designed our track, which is the same designer for Thunder Hill Raceway in California.
Oh, excellent.
And also the track down at the Corvette Museum.
So let's talk a little bit about the track. You said 2.7 miles.
2.47.
2.47 miles. How wide is it?
It's a full 40 feet wide all the way through.
And sort of the elevation turns, what are we talking about?
We've got about a 3,000 foot long front straight. And it goes into a series. There's 16 turns in the course, and there's 300 to 400 feet of elevation change throughout one lap.
That's what throws me. I'm really great with turns, but once you start going up and down and I can't see over it, I don't like it anymore.
Well, see, that's what's beautiful about the Ridge.
The Laguna Seca, I come around that corkscrew every time I drive through that corkscrew. I'm petrified as I come over the top of that ridge. I'm going to come over somebody stalled in the left lane and boom, right in the back of them. It scares the life out of me. So there is some elevation. That's a challenge for me.
Definitely. And I was just lucky enough to drive Laguna here about a week ago.
Right.
And, it's a beautiful facility.
So you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? That corkscrew scares you.
Yeah, and it's Laguna's a great track, and it's got a lot of history to it. It's very, very fun to drive. Flows really well. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But, the one thing about the Ridge that's different about Laguna, and we do have our own corkscrew per se, which is turns 13 through 16 on the course, but the neat thing about the Ridge is it's an easy track to learn to drive, but it's a hard track to learn to drive fast. And so it takes a long time it takes quite a bit of time to...
I'm suspicious of saying this is your excuse for having to go out on the course regularly, right?
Yeah, well, exactly.
Need to be... If I'm going to sell this place, I need to be proficient, right?
Well, then you need to get up there and drive it, because you'll take 2 laps and you want to sell it to everybody.
There you go. Let's talk about... One thing I noticed, Mark sent me... Sparky sent me your... the bio and the information about the track last week. And I noticed something that jumped out at me is you only have to be 15 to be on this track. Is that right?
That's on the karting course,
okay.
What he brought up there. Generally speaking, you need to have a driver's license to be able to get on the big course.
Wait, Jenya, you could make it you got another year to go. He's only 14.
You can ride. You can ride along. That'd be great. We'll get you hooked that way.
There you go.
But one thing that we've completed just this year, and we opened in August, was a exact replica of our road course in a karting facility. It's 1/5 the scale. It's the exact layout. It's got the same elevation change and everything at 1/5 scale of our big road course. And to my knowledge, it's the only one in America that's been done.
Sparky, have you been on the course, and how did you get sort of wound up with the course? Have you been doing some stuff up there?
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time on it. Our cameras have been hung all over everything from Grand Prix bikes to enduro karts to stock cars to open wheel stuff, Corvettes. People bring cars there several times a month for lapping days, and so we had a bunch of cameras on a Hellcat the other day with a couple of guys from Canada that just tore it up. It's amazing to
are Canadians allowed to drive Hellcats?
So they obtained one. I can't tell you how that worked. But, the thing is, what I see is just the ear-to-ear grin every time somebody comes off the course. Granted, what Rusty said about it being a difficult course and taking some time to learn, that is true. But the neat thing about it is it's competitive and it's also a challenge. So you want to go out each lap and do better and better and better. It's a safe track. The runoffs have been well designed. There's nothing to really run into vertically. So if you make a mistake, you usually end up just, raising a little dirt, but you're not going to, have an issue.
So I have several projects that jump into my head right here. First of all, I've been badgering Rolls-Royce for a long time to let me drift a Rolls-Royce. So I'm thinking maybe this is the place to do it. I'm nearly there. Don't tell me. Kyle Keenan is just crazy about this because he really wants to do this too. So, I told Kyle when he gets above me in height, he can actually, I don't think he's tall enough to drive a Rolls Royce yet, but when he does get above me in height, he can drive one. Kyle really wants to do this drifting. Cindy Lex wants to do this as well. I'm seeing like all these TV shows going through my head. My friend, my companion on TV, Mike Cadell, who does Fox and Friends car stuff, he wants to come up and do a TV show. I mean, we need to spend several hours together coming up with some ideas about this because we could do lots of fun things. But how does the public get involved in the track? If they want to come up and see, is it just coming up and watching races? Can they participate? Can they learn stuff?
Yeah, they can do all of those. That we have, up here in the Pacific Northwest, because of our great weather, we have, what we call the on-season, the off-season. Track's open all the time. Our kart track runs year-round. And that's a great way for people to come up there and experience the track. Speaking of Kyle, Keenan, when we opened the kart track, Kyle came out and did a couple test runs on it. And he was out there in a spec Miata, just running that thing as fast as he possibly could. And he went down and ran on the kart track for a couple sessions, and he was able to take a half a second off his lap time on the big course from what he picked up on the kart circuit.
Wow.
So it really is a great training tool, and it's a good way for people, younger people and people that are just wanting to come in and see what it's all about to get out there. And with our rental carts, they can get out there and actually have a road race experience, for a fraction of the cost.
What's the sort of training like? Are there, do you have given classes? Can people go and find out about those online and sign up to get some race car training?
Oh, yeah. If you visit our website at theridgemotorsportspark.com, it has everything on there from the Ridge Racing School, which is they've got multiple programs there where you can bring your own car and run that car with an instructor. You can also work something out with us to rent a car and get in something out there to learn. We have karting classes and things lined up, special events with the kart circuit and the road course circuit. And then we also have our open lapping days at the Ridge too, where you can bring up and run your own car.
Now I noticed that drifting is the big hot thing right now. Is there abilities to drift, or have you got that far yet, or is it just too much of a racetrack?
We've had some drifting stuff up there. As a matter of fact, I think Mark shot a commercial up there, or a video up there with some drift cars and stuff. And it's you can drift on the track. What we are looking at, what the expansion plans there at the Ridge are to be able to run into all sorts of different motorsports type stuff. We want to look at roundy round racing. We want to look at dirt track racing. We want to look at motocross. We want to look at off-road stadium truck racing. We want to look at drifting. And work that all in with the motorcycle schools, the car schools. We have lapping day events. We have, events where people can bring their own cars in and stuff like that. And as far as the public's concerned, the track's open every day. You can come up and take a look at cars and lapping day stuff. We have a lot of different races that come up there and a lot of club racing that goes on up here in the Pacific Northwest. And it's great to get up there and see a lot of the different classes.
The stock car experience.
Oh, yeah, and we've got a vendor up there, Turn 2 Lapping, run with Tom Pritchett. He's got a stock car, Northwest stock car experience that he brings up.
So you can do the whole thing. I mean, it's basically, if you're into speed, the need is fulfilled up at Ridge Motorsports
We
Park.
can take care of you any way you can imagine.
Remind us one more time about the website.
It's the ridgemotorsportspark.com.
And people can go up there and get all the information?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Thank you guys for coming in the studio. I know that the ideas are going to start flowing between us. We'll come up with a master plan and do stuff. And if you want to watch Coin, I'm sure you'll end up seeing it on Coin here in Portland when we do get something together, if not one of the Fox affiliates that we have around the country. Ridge Motorsports Park in Washington, just a few hours away from Portland, could give you all your racing experience. Coming up, the cars of Cuba. This country has been segregated for around 60 years. We'll find out what the motoring experience is like. Jeff Zerschmied has been there, and he's going to relay all his stories. This is Test Miles on FM News 101 KXL. I'm Nick Miles.
Test Miles on FM News 101.
Live from our studios in downtown Portland on a Sunday morning, this is America's Car Radio Show. We'd like to thank you for being part of the Car Nation.
Here's a fun fact. There's an estimated 60,000 vintage cars in Cuba.
There are 60,000 vintage cars in Cuba, and directly from Cuba is our friend Jeff Zerschmied is in the studio. In the 1960s, when Cuba became annexed from the West, the island basically became sort of nobody went in, nobody went out. Very many people went in and out. Several autophiles have been traveling to the island on a regular basis to check out all the vintage vehicles. One of those who recently went is Jeff Zerschmied from our very own Oregonian. And of course, you're here to paint a picture in words about your relationship and what happened there. So was it everything you expected?
Yeah, it was. We had a great time there. And, the cars were fantastic. The people were fantastic. It was just a great way to spend 8 days to get to know this place that not very many Americans have been able to go to.
Can you fly directly to Cuba now from the U.S., or did you have to go through Mexico?
No, you can. It's a charter flight, and it was American Airlines. It was a regular American Airlines flight, but they work it as a charter. So I flew to Miami and then just hopped over Miami to Havana.
Excellent. How long is the flight from Miami, by the way?
Well, about a half an hour.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
It just seems much
90 miles.
Really?
90 miles.
All right. So we hear about these fabulous cars there. Tell me about your experience, because we're getting lots of reports that it's not quite as fabulous as we thought it was.
Well, it is fabulous. It depends on what you want. The central fact is that as far as American cars go, time stopped in January of 1959 when the revolution came.
Right.
And so no new cars were imported down there, and the Cuban people just made do with what they have. They've kept these cars going for 60 years now. And it's remarkable that they were able to do that, especially in an island climate where rust is a much more serious issue than we have here in the States. So as a result, they've gotten really good at making replacement parts because they can't import replacement parts, and keeping the cars going with things like most of the cars that you see, the classic American cars, will be running either a Hyundai or a Toyota diesel engine that they import, these used diesel engines, and then install them in the cars. So you'll see some guy climbing into a 57 Bel Air Chevy and rattle. Most of the cars, the ones that are in really great shape, they're in use as taxis, and they've kept them nice. And I talked to one taxi driver, for example, who said, "I wash my car down every day when I get home in the evening, and the entire underside is covered with grease. I've just greased everything that can be greased
to stop the rust.
Because Havana is a coastal town,
right? And
the salt air and salt spray when you drive along the seawall. The main road around Havana is called the Malecon, and it's a road that runs right along the seashore with a seawall, and so they get a lot of salt spray, and that's just death on old cars.
I know that my very first Datsun 120Y that came over to the UK was chained on the top of a cargo ship.
Yeah.
And came from Japan, and of course, within 3 years, it was just a rust bucket. That's what happens if you have a car chained on top of a cargo ship where waves are coming over. What's going to happen with the opening of Cuba? Are we going to see these cars leaving the island? What do you think is going to be the result?
I don't think we're going to see cars leaving the island, because even the best one there counts as a mid-level car. By American standards of restoration and maintenance. And plus, down in Cuba, those cars sell for a tremendous amount of money because they're a ticket to a good life as a taxi driver, and you can make quite a bit more money than you can.
But isn't that going to change with the opening up of the country? I mean, aren't cars going to become readily available, so they'll be less likely?
Cars will become readily available, but the flow is not going to be American collectors going down to Cuba and buying cars and bringing them back. They're not good enough. The flow will be the third-level cars in America flowing down to Cuba to become the best car on the island.
If you've been trying to get rid of your Chevy Lumina, we may have a sale for you in Cuba. The alternative is that you may get some people going down there to restore these vehicles to their pristine condition engine-wise. So we may be finding a lot of these reconditioned engines, the original style engines coming down, the parts that they couldn't get suddenly available. So suddenly these cars maybe start to be worth something.
A crate, just a crate small block Chevy engine, is cheap up here. So once the trade opens up, you'll see a lot of that, a lot of parts going down there, and the level of their cars coming up, because these people are already fantastic craftsmen. I went to one shop where they actually restore and maintain the old cars, and these guys are amazing. The shop owner told me his men can do anything with nothing. And so they'll be making new body panels just with hammer and dolly and their hands. They don't even have sheet metal brakes or English wheels for shaping metal to make replacement parts. They're doing it all by hand, and they're doing a great job. These the folks are friendly and resourceful and really good at their jobs.
Jeff, it sounds like a beautiful thing. If we want to go to Cuba, is this open to anybody, this trip?
It's not quite open. It's getting better, but I would definitely advise going with a package tour, and they'll set everything up for you, set up all your lodging and food and the people and the music, and everything is fantastic down there.
I wish I'd gone, and I've had the opportunity to go several times. Jeff Zerschmied can be read in the Oregonian on a regular basis.
And look at my article on the cars of Cuba at digitaltrends.com. Just go to digitaltrends.com and search on Cuba. You'll find my article about the Yank tanks of Cuba.
I'm going to do it right now. This is Tess Miles and FM News 101 KXL. Next week, another packed show, but in between, we have a 24/7 place you can get all your entertainment. It's tessmiles.com. Don't forget, see you on Coin Fridays and Saturdays.
Test Miles, like NASCAR, but with one right turn. Testmiles.com.